One of the things I just want to say is we've really had some very stereotypical notions about what people can and should learn. And we have looked at the color of their skin, the language that they speak, the languages that they speak, their place of national origin, sometimes even their religion, as limiting factors on what they should learn. 20 years ago, well, actually 30 years ago, the first President Bush introduced the Americans with Disabilities Act. And although we haven't gotten everywhere we need to go, and I'm speaking of as a father of a cognitively disabled adult daughter, I know that her world is not the world I want it to be, but it's a better world than it would have been without the passage of the Americans with Disabilities Act. I know that we're not where we need to be on the education of all young people, but I think we have to begin the conversation by saying the assumptions are quite different 20 years after No Child Left Behind than they were prior to No Child Left Behind. Because we really did think we should leave children behind. We should leave them behind if they're disabled. We should leave them, where they are if they are kids of color, if they're Black, if they're Latino, if they're low income. The expectations are lower for them. And the revolution of No Child Left Behind was really, first and foremost, a revolution in expectations. And I think we're very clear today that our expectations for all children and all young people and all human beings is that they can learn an incredible amount, and that learning can be the basis for economic and social mobility and enriched lives, and from my point of view, very importantly, for engaged citizenship. We know that debt is challenging. Yeah. We don't want people to take on too much. On the philanthropic side, I think philanthropy does not do enough to support the aspirations of our learners. I know that, for example, when we give a $5,000 scholarship to a UNCF student, their graduation rate goes from 35% to 70% in 6 years. That's a $5,000 scholarship does that. So I think one of the things we should begin to recognize is there's that for those of us who either individually or who lead philanthropies, we should be thinking a lot more about both scholarships and internship.
Yeah.
Because I think the two are linked, and they're great investments, and I think we should see that as part of a philanthropic strategy. And so I really am disappointed that American philanthropy isn't as attuned to ways of helping individuals as a way of helping the nation get to some of these changes. And I think someone once said to me from a major American foundation, scholarship is not a strategy. Well, it's not a strategy if you don't make it one. But if you make investing in low-income students of color who are the first in their family, it's a huge strategy, because what we see at UNCF is the following. You get a college degree and you're a first-generation African-American college goer at an HBCU. Within 3 years, you're earning of graduation, you're earning $51,000 a year. Then in 8 years, you're earning $60,000 a year. And you're earning as much as a white peer would be earning 8 years after graduation. In 10 years, you're earning $71,000 a year, which is more than a white peer, and you are no longer, by the way, eligible for Pell. That happens. So what we do know is that with first generation low income students, they're on a mission. If we can help them get to it, they're going to move from poverty to a more economically sustainable space, and they're going to be employable. This is such good public and philanthropic policy. I don't understand why we're not making more investments like that. I think that education jargon drives a lot of people away from what would be a natural response, which is there's a young person out there who wants an education. What can I do to help? And I would say to the readers of Catalyst, there's a huge role for you. And the role is to be not just an informed citizen, but an engaged citizen. And, I would say pay attention to what's happening in your own community, in the public schools, public traditional schools, and the charter schools if you have them in your community. I'd say pay as much attention to who gets elected to the school board as you pay to who gets elected to the city council. And I would also say be generous. Uh, each and every one of us can be generous enough to engage in the life of someone who is not related to us and offer a hand up and not just a handout. And so I urge everyone to give. For 76 years, we've told people a mind is a terrible thing to waste, but a wonderful thing to invest in. Whether you invest in UNCF or the Hispanic Scholarship Fund or the Asian Pacific Islander Scholarship Fund or the American Indian Scholarship Fund, help somebody. I mean, I just think that, and if you do that, the return is going to be, it's going to fill your heart as well as provide real opportunity for someone along a pathway that you've had the benefit to be on. I just think if we start living our lives a little bit more outside of ourselves and a little bit more in the hearts and lives of others, we can be the great nation we have the founding principles to be, but we've sort of strayed from.